Edgar, do you know what an emu is? Hey, this is a story time. And I just cracked my nail for boding omens. Since this is a booktube channel, and basically my life is an unwritten book, I can tell stories on here. I've been in some weird predicaments. I could tell a lot of stories, but for right now, I'll tell my most famous. One that has lovingly became known as the Emu Scooter story. Emu Scooter for short. For those of you who have never watched Animal Planet, this is an emu. And for those without internet access, how are you watching this? And I'll pull up some facts about said emus. The emu is the second largest bird on Earth by height, followed by its cousin the ostrich. They can grow up to 2 meters tall, a little bit over 6 feet for you Americanos. For reference, I'm 5'5". An emu could swoop its neck down and peck out my brains in like a second if it wanted to. The emu's 3-toed feet allow it to run up to 30 miles per hour. On skates, I can go 24 miles per hour. They are omnivores, so they can eat your flesh, if the need so comes upon them. They weigh 66 to 100 pounds. I'm not telling you how much I weigh. Not for reference, not for scale, nope. But with those big feetsies, they can disembowel you with a single kick. And when it's egg laying time, the dudes are the one who sits on the eggs. For about 7 weeks without eating, drinking, defecating, without leaving the nest. Wow. The females, meanwhile, have often moved on, sometimes mating with a different male. Man, female emus are dirty. Predators of the emu are dingoes and wedge-tailed eagles, neither of which live in Florida. How do we defend ourselves? Alright, facts over. I used to live in a place called Tallahassee, Florida. You may know it. It's the capital of Florida. But the layout of Tallahassee, you have the center of town, big college city, lots of buildings, lots of cityness right in that circle. However, the more you go outside of that inner ring, the more backwoodsy it gets. I lived in the backwoodsy part of Tallahassee. I am a country girl. Even though now I live by the beach, I still feel the call of the woods in my veins. And just so you guys know the layout of the land, I prepared a map for you. Highly detailed, highly specific. Near my old house, there was an intersection. On the left quadrant of the intersection was the emu farm. On the right side of the intersection was some horses, some meadows, few trees, some random houses. Then you get 40 acres of straight up pine woods. Really constrictive, really close together, really hard to go through. But on the other side of the woods was my neighborhood. Just flat acres of perfect greenish yellow land, the grass rustling in the breeze. Perfect for an emu to run across to rip out your throat. Now, I'm going to guesstimate that this story took place when I was 13 or 14, because I remember my brother was super young, 2nd grade, maybe 3rd grade. So if he was in 2nd grade, I should have been 7th or 8th grade. So we're dealing with a 12-year-old to 13-year-old Casey. For context, after 6th grade, I was homeschooled. My brother went to a private school for a little bit. Now, like I said, we had our neighborhood, then we had the crazy woods, then we had the random horse meadows, then the road, then the emu farm. One day, and this is where this 4-part story all started, my crazy, probably 2nd grade brother went missing. Of course, everybody in my house freaked out. I was there. I was part of the freaking. Let's see, at the house, there was my dad, my mom, me, and my grandmother. I think she was either there already or she came because we lost our only grandson. So word got out and this massive search party began. Now, in my neighborhood, we had about a 40% cop ratio. Like every other 3rd house, there was a police officer living there. Like, if the zombie apocalypse happened, our neighborhood would become like one of the safe cities. My dad was one of the police officers. It was a super safe neighborhood to live in until the emus came. So within minutes, we were just swarmed with police officers at our house. We were HQ, and we were sending people everywhere. Everybody volunteered to help find my baby brother. But of course, we already were formulating where was the most obvious place my brother would run off to. My crazy, animal-obsessed brother. There's a whole other story where my brother put like a $20 T-bone steak in like a fox trap to try and catch fox, but yeah, we knew he'd probably run off into the woods. So I went with my dad and a friend into the fringe of the woods, snot dribbling down my face, crying my eyes out. My grandmother kept trying to take me back to the house, but I'm a good sister, and I was like, no, I won't leave him. He's my brother. And then I found this empty turtle shell, and I took that as a very bad omen, but eventually I did go back to the house. We double-checked, we triple-checked the house, all the cars, and eventually I found him. Hey, super sleuth. I am the hero of the tale. My brother, sweet little baby he was. You guys know, like, school-sponsored restaurant events? Like, Mickey Burger Queen is having a special night for kids going to Lincoln Elementary School. You come eat today, and we'll donate some of the profit back to your school. One of those things. Well, my brother's school was having an event like that very night. And so they gave him a sticker with like the logo of the restaurant, and he was so excited to go. It was his favorite restaurant, and he was scared that we would forget about him. Why would we forget about him? So he climbed into my dad's truck, not like in the bed, like in the back seat of the truck, and just curled up back there waiting for us to go to the restaurant with his little sticker clasped tightly to his heart. So how did we miss him? We double-checked and triple-checked the cars. Well, not my fault. My grandmother was supposed to check the truck, and you know car doors where you have to open the driver's side first, then you can open the back seat? Well, my grandmama didn't do that. She opened the driver door, peeked her head in, didn't check the back seat. Unlike me. Super smart Casey. Detective extraordinaire. Yep, my grandmother, she just poked her head in, said, "Oh, no, Colby, close the door." But no, me. I saved the day. I took the time to open the other door, and there he was, my little brother. Like, he wasn't even on the seats. He was like, it looked like he was hiding. He was like on the floorboards, his little butt poking up in the air. He looked like a turtle without its shell. Revelation. I was like, "Colby!" And he was like, "Yeah." So again, I saved the day. But meanwhile, while all this was going on at home, something ungodly was happening in the forest. Yeah, happy ending at home, but it wasn't a good day for my dad. My dad, being the absolute boss that he is, was blazing through the forest looking for his son, marathon running it, combing the woods as strategically as he could, while worry chugged along to the thoughts racing in his mind. So again, houses, woods, roads, emu farm. My dad decided to comb the woods in little quadrants. Like go like this, then go back, then like this, then like that, rinse and repeat. He had already contacted the police department. A helicopter was almost on its way. They were like getting it revved up. However, deep in these shadowed woods, branches scraping at his chin, his kneecaps about to buckle, periodically throwing up over his shoulder, but never ceasing in his pursuit. My dad saw something. Nested among the brambles was a massive bird. So massive, in fact, my dad said the bird was sitting, yet they were still eye level with each other. But my dad didn't have time for a big bird staring daggers at him. He just ran right past, looked over his shoulder, and was like,
"Man, that's a big bird!"
And he went on trying to find his son. Eventually, one of his police buddies called him in the woods and told him that the hero found his son. Funny thing is that this police officer was supposed to be way on the other side of town doing his patrol, but he had come to help. My dad didn't know that. So let's call this police officer Bob. When Bob called my dad thought,
"Did Colby run all the way across town?"
So yeah, happy ending and everything, but my dad had to go to the emergency room that night. He'd busted his knees. But he swore so much that he saw a massive bird somewhere out in those woods. We chalked it up to the pain medication. We said he was hallucinating because he was running too much in the woods. My mom called him crazy. But my dad persisted that there was some devil bird out there in those woods. Years pass, and we taunt my dad whenever we go to a zoo and we see the bird exhibit, and there's a toucan or a parrot or a macaw, and we're like, "Hey Dad, there's your big bird." Or if we see vultures on the side of the road, "Big bird." Or if we see big bird, "Big bird." Every time.
"It's not funny. There's something in those woods sitting on some sort of nest."
That devil bird was an emu, something that kills 100 people every year. So again, we're living in the same house, same neighborhood, house, woods, road, emu farm. But at this point of our lives, we didn't know that was an emu farm. When we'd ride past it, there's just these weird little trenches, because it used to be a fish farm, but now it's an emu farm. So again, I was homeschooled at this time. My brother went to private school. So at around 7 a.m. they would head out so my mom can drop him off at school. My dad would already be at work, and I would have the house all to myself. I wouldn't do any schoolwork. I'd watch TV until she came back. Then I would pretend I was doing school the whole time, making sure I just had like piles of paper and books just surrounding me. So my mom and brother went on their merry way. I'm pretty sure I was making a breakfast out of croissants and orange yogurt. But then the home phone rang. So my mom had taken my dad's truck because the backwoods to my brother's school were pretty epic backwoods. So she called me. "Casey, come down to the entrance right now. You need to come see this." So I'm like, okay, this is my mother who I love and trust. She won't lead me straight into danger. So my main form of exercising in those days was scootering. I would just scooter up and down the driveway. Think about all the books I want to write someday. So me and my trusty scooter, we just chugged along down the road. I was a chubby kid. But this road is mega important. Like, listen. The road is at a slight decline. Surrounding the entrance, though, are hills. Big green hills. Like, whoop, with a little road right in the middle. My mom was on her side of the road at the entrance, looking like she was just taking a really long time deciding whether to go left or right. So I'm gonna have to tell this next little part from my mom's perspective, while chubby little Casey is buttering a croissant. When my mom first pulled up to the entrance, she looked left, she looked right, she looked left. Whoa! When she looked right, she saw a sight. There was a full-grown emu running down the road like a emu out of an emu farm. Like, you could tell he escaped from Emu Alcatraz. There was a truck chasing him, and some people on foot, with like the dog catcher leashes, the metal ones. There was this lady waving one of those dog catcher sticks, and the emu was ducking and weaving. But he wasn't graceful. This emu was running down the pavement like a beast. He was a beast. And you know, emus, they got those talons. He was clawing at the road. He couldn't get any traction, just scraping and sliding everywhere. His feathers just going crazy like this. Just like a weird Mardi Gras parade, feathers everywhere. Just an ungainly mess of muscle and feathers. This thing sped past the nose of my mom's truck. And that's when she called me the emu exterminator. So they were watching all the drama while the people were trying to catch the emu. Meanwhile, I'm just chugging down the road. My little scooter. So I scooted up to my mom's driver window. I knocked on it and I said, "Hey Mom, I'm here. What do you want me to see?" And as she rolled that driver window down, just a cold wash of horror came over her entire face. She was looking above my head like something was behind me. She was pale. Her mouth was like... And then she said some awful words. That! So I turned around to see what that was. Again, we have those hills. So guess what I turned around and saw? A 6-foot emu on a 10-foot hill. So little old me was staring up into the orange eyes of a 16-foot monster. So what did I do? I'm telling you, those emus, they see right into your soul. Me and him held eye contact for about 2 seconds, but it was enough. And it went a little something like this. I have never jumped a hurdle before, but I was a freaking champion that day. I abandoned my scooter for dead, and I somehow managed to convince my chubby legs to take a flying leap over the bed of the truck, pounding on the side of the metal to get my mom to move the car! And that emu just cawed at me in laughter. We sped out of there, no dignity, left my scooter in the road. I don't even know if I recovered it. So yeah, we sped out of there. Meanwhile, this thing is like flapping down the hill like, "Where you going, best friend? We just met each other." The moral of that story was, never listen to your parents. They will feed you to the emus. I actually don't know if they ever caught that emu, but I do know I left my scooter there that day. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I saw the emu going down the road on my scooter. Like, this is what you get for abandoning me to the bird catchers. So, after all those years of mocking my dad, instead of eating crow, we ate emu.
I told you there was an emu in those woods. I told you.
He didn't know what the name of the bird was. He kept calling it a really big vulture. A shabby flamingo at best. So now we have become aware of the existence of the emu. If not a flock of them, at least one of them, who like to stalk our woods. But do the emu attacks in there? No, I wasn't the only one to lose a precious mode of transportation. This third part did not happen to me or my family, but to a family friend who lives in the same neighborhood, which I shall now call Emu Estates. Let's call this gentleman Watson. Watson was coming into the neighborhood one day after work, driving his big truck, and then he sees a strange sight peeking over the horizon. There's a woman on the road, not a woman he knows, and she's waving like... Of course, windows up, he can't hear her. So he rolls the window down, shouts out the window, "What? Stop! Stop!" So while he was focused on the woman, Watson was oblivious to the emu running up the shoulder to check his car. That man ran over an emu, and it ran off like it was nothing. Like, feathers and glass raining down. No, that's too dramatic. That emu acted like nothing happened and just kept on barreling down the road. Those things are tanks. They're indestructible. They're gonna take over the human race. It's just a matter of time. When they learn how to fly, we're dead. If you learn anything from these stories, never try to challenge an emu. You will die. I don't know what damage that emu did to his truck, but that would be fun to explain to the insurance company. So eventually, the emu thing got out of hand. They were popping up everywhere around our neighborhood, and they were either causing car wrecks or they were attacking people and their pets. So the sheriff's office got involved and had emu hunts. Although I highly suspect they didn't get all of them. The woods are woodsy. And when the emus tuck their heads in, they just look like one big bush. So after all this damage has been done to people's mental states and to their vehicles, to even their pets, this story concludes opens with a confession in a real estate class. My mom is a real estate agent. She has to go to real estate classes every now and then. So she attended one class, and she knows the lady sitting in the desk in front of her. And she knows that lady that she knows has exotic animals and runs an emu farm. So she wants to tell all her emu stories to this lady. So after class ends, she goes up to the lady and says, "Hey, Cheryl, do you guys still have those emus?" And the lady, embarrassment and a sort of fear comes over her face. Like, I deny everything. So she gets really close to my mom. She says, oh, we don't claim the emus anymore. My mom is like, what? And Cheryl, she says, well, they cause so many car wrecks, we don't claim them anymore. We just say we don't know who they belong to. And our emus keep escaping. The female ones will go over the fence to lay their eggs, and the male ones will follow them. So that emu that my dad saw all those years ago, he was sitting on an egg. That's why he didn't get up and chase my dad. There are baby emus out there running wild in the woods around my old house. There's going to be an emu war in Tallahassee one day, which is why I moved. So please, if you have any exotic pets and they get out, alert the sheriff's office, especially if they're over 6 feet tall. We need to know their specific weaknesses. We need to learn how to bait traps for them so people won't lose their scooters to emus. That is the emu scooter story. In that same neighborhood, I was prepared to fight off a coyote with a fork, and on the other side of the neighborhood, there lived a peacock that was a jerk. Like if you rode your bike past his little hiding place, he would come and peck your ankles. And now the neighborhood that I live in currently has wild boars and bobcats. I'm never going to be safe. Florida's a weird place. So what animal has attacked you recently? There was that time I tried to pepper spray a dog, but I ended up pepper spraying myself. Yeah, good thing I had sunglasses on. If you guys want to donate to my scooter fund, every like is a penny. We'll get me a new scooter someday. I wonder what would have happened to my dad that night if instead of letting him run, the emu thought he was a threat and got off his nest and just raced after him, screeching, cawing, just bobbing his head forward, trying to stab him with his beak. Thank you, bros. Comment below. What animal attacked you? How did you defend yourself? Here's a little tip for you. If you ever get attacked by an alligator, jab it in the eye, but also the muscles for opening an alligator's jaws are very weak. So he closes really hard, but it's hard for him to open his mouth. So if you can just get one hand around his mouth, you can close it and keep it closed until you can get duct tape around it. The more you know. Well, guys, auf Wiedersehen, and it was a pleasure to tell a story to you. Please subscribe and like. Join my anti-emu army. AUA. See you, peeps. Okay, 1 bark for yes, 2 barks for no. Is that all you do? You want to film? Okay, see, this is a camcorder. You use it to spy on people from a distance.